Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open. So millennials are faced with a different pace lifestyle that is, which kind of, it invites many challenges when it comes to adulting, whether it's choosing the right career path, staying in a relationship, or being financially stable. So our next guest is a mental health advocate, psychotherapist, and certified life coach who decided to write the book, Adulting as a Millennial, a guide to everything your parents didn't teach you. And that's to help the future generation create a meaningful life. And she's here to tell us more. Please welcome author Asha Tarry. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me, Rhina.
Well, thank you for thinking of this book that I feel personally is something that should be taught within the DOE. And I'm saying this because there's an aspect of our existence in which it should be part of our curriculum in development when going to school. And the fact that you've chosen to target the millennials, meaning obviously that's the title of your book, just in the state, they're really at risk right now with this particular state of emergency that we've been living in for the past 7 months.
Yeah, they are. And before this time, millennials were also challenged with the high rates of underemployment, high student loan debt, anxiety, and there are many reasons why, yes, I totally agree. This book should be in high schools and universities and colleges because social emotional health is something that a lot of kids do not grow up learning.
Right. And so, especially where we are right now. So when I think of millennials, I live in denial. I like to identify myself as one. Just kidding. No. All jokes aside, I opened up with addressing the pace in which they operate because they live really fast because they have everything at their fingertips. Whereas growing up, we didn't. And so there's a lot of information they're being bombarded with, and there's a lot of false information they're being bombarded with. And so it becomes this issue of like, okay, they have access to a lot of information, but what do they follow? What is it that is best to use as a blueprint in how to succeed in life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Everything is moving fast these days, and to help people to slow down is really what I'm here to do. The book and the work that I do to help people to get more centered, mindfulness work, is something that I think people are seeking, but they don't quite know where to begin. So yeah, we're creating and living in a society where having a false identity is really acceptable, and people don't exactly know oftentimes what they see, whether it is real or falsified. And that's where mental health providers come in and coaches come in to ground people in the reality of understanding values, which is partly what we talk about in the book. Integrity is one, and also how to do work and live in a way that is more meaningful, which I honestly think a lot of millennials do want. They want a meaningful life. They want a purposeful life. They just don't exactly know how to go about starting one.
So let's talk a little bit about integrity and how you identify it, because that's a very, very important word to operate by. And we are not necessarily taught the importance and relevance of operating with integrity. And not just integrity towards someone else, integrity towards yourself.
Yeah, it starts there, right? It starts where you are, understanding why your word matters, why it's acceptable in many ways to tell the truth, and how that is for a lot of us going to set us free. It's going to build relationships and trust, because when you're starting with the foundation that you have to make things up, you then have to keep that lie going. And it just builds on another lie, another lie. And ultimately, that's a part of the anxiety that most people feel, is that they have to keep up with a standard that is unrealistic and impossible. And it's part of what people come into my work doing, is working long hours, trying to compete and compare with people on social media, trying to live a life that they actually cannot afford. And so the mental stress and anguish that comes from that is a result of those falsified identities. And so my job is to help people to, again, get seated in who do you want to be? And it starts with understanding your principles and the kind of life you want to live, and how you want to build life with other people by starting with the honesty that is required to do that.
Right. And so I would imagine you've been very busy in the past couple of months with telehealth, right? Because you're able to do it with people in the intimacy of their home. And in addition to that, I think we've all pivoted to another state of being in just opening up a consciousness that we might not have necessarily paid so much attention to, moving at the fast pace of coming and going, right? So yes, we're addressing the fast pace with the fingers. However, now there's this pause that we've all been forced to do, and that leaves us wondering, well, what really matters?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are questioning everything now because nothing is certain. They're questioning their relationships. They're questioning the stability of their jobs. They're questioning their health, how to live a healthy life, how to do work that is more prevention based instead of what we do a lot of times, which is maintenance. There are a lot of things that we never quite were, I think, aware of in terms of the functioning of our society, the best ways that we can maintain some balance or harmony, as I call it, between your personal life and your work life. And so to help people to slow down is actually more effort than you would imagine, because people have been conditioned over the last decade to really do more, to achieve higher goals, to be turned on all hours of the day and night. And that has, for me, been something I kind of foresaw would take a toll on people's mental health, because it's not sustainable to be on every day. Social media, work email, after work hours with email, responding to friends with text messages. That's not healthy for your brain, and it's definitely taxing on your body, and all of that is interconnected. So to get people to focus on the here and now,
right,
and to identify what do they want to put their attention towards and how to make that priority number one and or two, has been a challenge. But I think that's what people have wanted. It's just that they didn't believe that they could get that.
Right, right. So can you show us your book? Because it also serves as a workbook too, right?
Yeah, we're actually going to be doing a lot more with this book. So this is a guide really for people to ask themselves some hard questions, adulting as a millennial. I do a lot of work in the book to share my own personal anecdotes of what I did to become more successful in my relationships, in my career, and to accept the things that I did have growing up, and to be appreciative of those things too, because it made me who I was. So even if I didn't get everything from my parents, I definitely got a lot of things from the life that I've lived so far and other people around me.
And thank you for using the term success in relationships, because I think success is a word that is used loosely in the field of just gaining, right? In finances and or fame, which is, I'm going to assume, one of the topics you discuss within your book, because again, you're addressing the millennials and they're living this life. And I'm saying this just by observation. Of competition versus just focusing on self and developing self within authentic relationships versus these superficial relationships of what they're seeing virtually.
Absolutely. We want people to understand what a healthy relationship looks like. And that's partly what I offer in my coaching. And that takes work. It takes commitment to yourself, to set up clear boundaries with people, again, to be honest with people, and to work on your own enrichment. And that's going to ultimately lead you to healthier relationships with others.
Well, thank you. And thank you for bringing it to our audience. Asha Tarry, author of Adulting as a Millennial, a guide to everything your parents didn't teach you. That's available now on Amazon.com. And if you're interested on some coaching with Asha, you can visit lifecoachasha.com. We do have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll speak to a health advocate chef about some nutritional meals that you don't want to miss. Don't go anywhere.